If Somalia became a successful pirate state, it would represent a fascinating and highly unusual political entity that managed to harness piracy as a legitimate and sustainable national strategy. Unlike the chaotic, violent image we often associate with piracy, a successful Somali pirate state would have to maintain internal stability, establish a functioning economy, and cultivate international influence. Here's how that scenario might play out. From crime to industry in this alternate reality, piracy evolves from a lawless and violent practice into a highly organized, state-sponsored industry. The Somali government, dominated by pirate leaders, would formalize piracy as a legitimate economic activity, state-sanctioned piracy. The government would regulate and control piracy, much like how some governments have regulated privateering in the past. Pirate fleets would be licensed by the state, and their operations would follow established protocols. Profits from piratical activities, such as hijacking ships or collecting ransoms, would be taxed by the state to fund infrastructure, social services, and defense. Privateer economy. Similar to privateers in the Age of Sail, these Somali pirates might operate under letters of marque that allow them to attack and seize foreign ships in exchange for a share of the loot. The state could distinguish between targets, focusing on nations or companies that don't pay for protection or comply with the state's demands, maritime law, and courts. The pirate state would establish courts to handle disputes over loot distribution, ransom negotiations, and legal issues related to piracy. These courts would be respected within the state and enforce contracts between pirate crews, shipping companies, and international clients. To succeed long-term, Somalia's pirate economy would have to diversify beyond simple hijacking and ransom-taking. The pirate state would likely develop a multifaceted economy built on both legal and illegal trade, with piracy serving as a foundation rather than the sole economic activity. Ransom diplomacy. Instead of purely violent piracy, Somalia might develop a system of ransom diplomacy where shipping companies, governments, and even international organizations would pay protection fees or tolls to pass through Somali-controlled waters. This system could be formalized with tariffs set by the pirate government in exchange for guaranteed safe passage through strategic maritime routes, ports, and trade hubs. Coastal cities like Mogadishu, Kismayo, and Bosaso would become thriving pirate hubs, not just for raiding but for global trade. These ports would facilitate both legal and black market trade, turning Somalia into a powerful economic player. Ships carrying illegal goods, weapons, drugs, smuggled goods would find safe harbor, and the Somali state might even impose duties on these illicit trades, ensuring additional revenue streams. Global shipping influence. Somalia could establish itself as a central player in global logistics and shipping, particularly for goods moving between the Middle East, Europe, and Asia. By controlling key shipping lanes, the pirate state would effectively manage access to the Suez Canal, and companies might prefer to deal directly with the Somali state rather than risk piracy, leading to economic dependence on Somali-controlled seas. To survive and thrive, a successful Somali pirate state would need to navigate international politics carefully. It would likely balance diplomatic relations, military threats, and economic leverage to maintain its standing in the global arena. Strategic alliances. Somalia could form alliances with other rogue or semi-legitimate states, particularly those facing sanctions or international isolation, such as North Korea, Venezuela, or Iran. These alliances could lead to secret trade agreements or military cooperation in exchange for Somali protection of shipping routes or access to black market goods. Pirate soft power. Over time, Somalia might develop a form of soft power, using its wealth from piracy to fund development projects in other countries, invest in global industries, or even contribute to international organizations. This pirate state could build an image not just as a menace, but as a necessary player in global trade and security. Negotiations with corporations. Corporations and multinational shipping firms, recognizing the power of the Somali state, might negotiate directly with pirate leaders for safe passage, long-term security deals, or even joint ventures in maritime trade. In this sense, piracy would become a legitimate economic service that large companies budget for, much like they budget for insurance. For Somalia to remain successful as a pirate state, it would need to develop a sophisticated navy capable of defending its maritime borders and deterring international interventions. This navy would not just engage in piracy, but also in the protection of trade and the enforcement of its sovereignty. Modern navy with private fleets. The Somali navy would likely consist of both state-owned warships and private pirate fleets. These fleets would be modernized with stolen or purchased technology, including advanced surveillance systems, fast attack boats, and perhaps even drones for maritime reconnaissance. Coastal fortifications. Key pirate cities along Somalia's coast would be heavily fortified, equipped with radar systems, anti-aircraft defenses, and artillery to defend against potential naval attacks by foreign powers trying to shut down Somali piracy. Cooperative defense with rogue states. Somalia might engage in cooperative defense agreements with other rogue states or militias, offering them naval protection in exchange for resources, money, or military technology. This would give the pirate state added military leverage in the region. A successful pirate state would need to maintain internal stability, something Somalia has struggled with historically due to its clan-based structure and history of civil conflict. In this scenario, the pirate leadership would need to unite the clans and regions under a stable government while allowing the pirate economy to flourish. Clan alliances and power sharing. The pirate government might operate as a loose confederation of clans and pirate factions, with each having a stake in the national government. This would prevent internal conflict and provide incentives for clans to cooperate rather than fight for control. This is investing in infrastructure. With wealth flowing from piracy and trade, the pirate state could invest in infrastructure projects to improve roads, healthcare, education, and housing for the general population. This would help gain the loyalty of the broader Somali population, who might benefit from the state's wealth rather than suffer from it. Cultural renaissance. Somalia might experience a cultural renaissance under this new pirate regime, with pirate traditions, history, and values becoming ingrained in the national identity. Somali art, music, and literature might celebrate the pirate way of life, creating a distinct national culture around the theme of maritime power. A successful pirate state would not just focus on piracy, but also on building a sustainable economy that benefits its citizens, creates jobs, and reduces reliance on international aid. Pirate wealth for development. The revenues from piracy and international trade would fund major development projects, building schools, hospitals, and infrastructure in Somali cities. The government would incentivize young men and women to join the navy or shipping industry, offering them jobs and education in exchange for loyalty to the pirate state. Technological advancement. As Somalia becomes wealthier, it would invest in technology and innovation, perhaps even building advanced shipyards, launching satellites for maritime surveillance, or establishing research centers focused on naval warfare and logistics. Humanitarian projects. To improve its international image, Somalia could launch humanitarian projects in neighboring African countries, providing aid in exchange for political alliances or economic concessions. This could strengthen its position in the region and help it avoid being perceived solely as a rogue state. At first, the global community might attempt to crush Somalia's pirate state through military force or economic sanctions. However, as the state becomes more powerful and entrenched, the world might have to find ways to coexist with it. International recognition. After years of trying to contain or defeat the Somali pirate state, some countries might opt for diplomatic recognition, acknowledging Somalia as a legitimate state actor in exchange for peace deals or favorable trade agreements. Somalia could gain a seat in international organizations, using its economic leverage to secure a place on the global stage. Multinational naval cooperation. While some nations might negotiate with the pirate state, others might band together to form multinational naval coalitions to patrol the waters around Somalia. However, if Somalia's navy is strong enough, these powers may prefer to negotiate rather than risk costly naval battles. A successful pirate state in Somalia would become an unusual hybrid of organized crime and legitimate governance, transforming piracy from a lawless enterprise into a highly structured, state-sponsored industry. By controlling key shipping lanes, maintaining a strong navy, and balancing diplomacy with piracy, Somalia could grow into a regional power with influence over global trade. The state's wealth from piracy would lead to economic development, technological advancements, and a new national identity centered around maritime dominance. Over time, Somalia might shift from being seen as a rogue pirate nation to a respected player in global affairs, navigating the fine line between piracy and international legitimacy. The world, while initially resistant, would eventually learn to coexist with this unique pirate state as it becomes too powerful and integral to global trade to ignore. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like, share, and subscribe for more content.